Welcome back to the deep dive, where we take the source material you've shared, really get into the weeds, and pull out the absolute core of what you need to know.
And today we are really diving deep into the world of Indian retirement planning.
We're tackling that huge policy earthquake everyone's talking about, the new NPS 2025 plan.
And we have to clarify that right away. This isn't some brand new separate scheme being launched.
Right.
It's a monumental structural overhaul of the existing national pension system, and it's mostly being driven by the PFRDA Amendment Regulations 2025.
Okay, so our mission today, what is it?
Our mission is laser-focused. We need to pull out the critical changes for you, the new exit rules, the equity allocation, the flexibility, all the things that fundamentally change how appealing NPS is for an investor.
No matter where you are in your career journey.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just jump in because some of these shifts are frankly dramatic. I'm looking at the mandatory annuity requirement for a lot of people.
Oh.
It's dropping from a mandatory 40% down to just 20. That is so much more cash in your pocket at retirement.
It's a game changer for liquidity.
And then for the younger generation, the people just starting out, here's where it gets really interesting.
The equity part.
The introduction of a 100% equity option, that just completely reframes NPS, doesn't it? It's not just a tax saver anymore. It's a strategic, long-term wealth builder.
It is a complete repositioning of the product. But, before we get into all the details, we really have to provide some crucial context for government employees.
Right, because their path is a little different.
It's very different. While all these flexible new rules are rolling out for private and corporate subscribers, central and state government staff are navigating a parallel policy shift.
And that would be the proposed unified pension scheme, the UPS.
Exactly. The UPS is being discussed specifically for them, and it often includes defined benefit features.
Like a minimum guaranteed pension.
Yes, things like that. Which is critical because it means the retirement landscape for government workers is potentially moving away from this purely market-linked NPS model, while everyone else is getting more flexibility within it. It's like a dual track of policy change.
That context is so important. Okay, so let's put that aside for a moment and focus on the NPS overhaul for the private sector and the self-employed. Let's start at the end, where the money comes out.
The exit rules.
The PFRDA Amendment Regulations from December 2025, they completely redefine the exit landscape. So what's the single biggest psychological victory here for retirees?
It has to be that change in the mandatory annuity. It just has to be.
The 40% rule.
The old 40% rule.
Yeah.
Previously, you could only take out 60% of your corpus as a lump sum. The other 40% had to buy an annuity.
Right, locked in.
Locked in. Now, for non-government subscribers with a corpus over 12 lakh rupees, you can withdraw up to 80% as a lump sum.
80%. That is a massive jump in liquidity and control. It means only 20% is now mandatory for that annuity.
It is. I mean, think about what that does for you at the point of retirement. Annuities in India historically have had pretty modest returns.
And the income is fully taxable.
Fully taxable.
Hmm.
So reducing that forced lock-in from 40 to 20% gives a retiree so much more capital to manage their own life. Pay off a mortgage, start a business, invest somewhere else. It was an unpopular and, frankly, inefficient rule.
I see the benefit for that immediate capital, but what about the strategic side of it? For people who aren't ready to just stop at 60, maybe they enjoy working or they just don't need the money yet.
That's the second major change, and it addresses exactly that, the longevity factor.
Okay.
The maximum age to stay invested in NPS has been increased significantly, from 75 all the way up to 85 years.
Wow, an extra decade. That completely changes how you think about managing your money in your later years.
It really does. I mean, think about it. That's a full decade of additional tax-deferred compounding. If you don't need the money, you could just let it ride. You can put off that annuity purchase, put off those withdrawals, and let the corpus keep benefiting from market returns in that low-cost NPS structure.
Well into your 80s?
It's a powerful hedge against outliving your savings.
Okay, that handles the when and the how much. But what about the how? The actual mechanism of withdrawal. Taking a huge lump sum all at once can be, overwhelming. It's a massive financial event.
It is, and that's why the introduction of these new systematic withdrawal mechanisms is such a key feature for modern retirement planning.
The SUR and the SLW.
Systematic unit redemption and systematic lump sum withdrawal. It's basically like a reverse SIP for your retirement money.
A reverse SIP, I like that analogy. So how does it actually work differently from just taking the one-time lump sum?
Instead of taking your whole 80% lump sum on day one, you can now tell the PFRDA to pay you in phased redemptions.
Like a monthly or quarterly payout.
Exactly. Over a period of at least 6 years after you exit.
Yeah.
And this is better for like 3 reasons. First, it's great for behavioral finance, right? It stops that, oh my God, I have a giant pile of cash impulse buy.
Right, prevents mistakes.
Second, the money that's still in the account can keep participating in market growth. And third, and maybe most importantly, it just gives you smoother cash flow planning. It helps you bridge that gap from a salary to a stable pension income.
So it's a systematic way to de-risk and distribute the money without the stress of managing a huge amount of cash the day you retire.
Precisely. It transitions you from accumulation to distribution, nice and smooth.
We should probably touch on the other liquidity improvement, the one before retirement.
Oh, right. The partial withdrawals. There's a small relaxation there.
Still capped at 25% of your own contributions for specific needs, right?
Yes, that part's the same. Education, marriage, medical emergencies. But you can now do it up to 4 times during your tenure. Used to be 3.
So it's a minor tweak, but it gives you a little more breathing room for those big life events.
A little more administrative flexibility, exactly.
Fantastic. So we've nailed down the path out of NPS. It's far more flexible, far more liquid. Now let's switch gears and look at the engine. How do we maximize growth while the money's locked in? Let's dive into Section 2, the high-octane investment universe.
Okay. This is the feature that, especially for younger, risk-tolerant investors, changes NPS from just a tax-saving tool into a genuine competitor against things like mutual funds.
This is the 100% equity option.
This is it. Eligible subscribers, so private, corporate, self-employed, can now allocate up to 100% of their money to equities, specifically in schemes under the Multiple Scheme Framework, or MSF.
Getting rid of that 75% cap is it's transformative. You combine that pure equity exposure with the regulated, super low-cost structure of NPS.
And you have a phenomenal long-term compounding machine. That combination is everything. The low cost, fund management charges can be as low as 0.09% compounded over 30 or 40 years on a pure equity portfolio. That's a massive advantage that even the best mutual funds struggle to match.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because we got some feedback on this. If I go for that 100% equity path, there's a restriction, isn't there?
There is.
I can't switch between the MSF schemes for the first 15 years or until I'm 60. Isn't that a huge friction point? What if a better fund manager comes along in the NPS system? I'm stuck.
That's a fair challenge, and it is the trade-off. It absolutely is. The restriction is there to discourage constant churning and, ensure a long-term commitment, especially with the volatility of pure equity. So you're right. The choice you make early on requires real conviction. You have to do your homework on the fund manager. But the system does allow flexibility in your percentage allocation as you get older through the auto-choice option. That automatically de-risks you.
So the restriction is on switching fund managers, not on changing your overall risk exposure.
That's the key distinction.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, beyond just the 100% allocation, you mentioned the whole investment universe is getting bigger. What does that mean?
It means the NPS equity funds aren't just stuck with traditional Indian stocks and bonds anymore.
Okay.
They can now invest small portions. We're talking capped at around 5% of the equity allocation into non-traditional assets.
Like what are we talking about?
We're talking about things like gold and silver ETFs, real estate investment trusts, or REITs, equity-oriented alternative investment funds, or AIFs, and even participating in IPOs.
So what here is pretty big. This adds a layer of institutional sophistication to your retirement account. It's adding diversification beyond the usual stuff, which could reduce risk and maybe boost returns.
All within that same low-cost wrapper.
Right.
It's making the product much more advanced.
Exactly. It raises the bar for the entire system.
It does.
So, okay. Unprecedented flexibility on the way out, high-octane potential on the way in. But this freedom has to come with trade-offs.
Let's move to Section 3. Balancing the scale pros, cons, and key risks.
Right. And before we hit the risks, let's just quickly reaffirm the core benefits that haven't changed. The tax and cost structure is still the bedrock of this thing.
The cost effectiveness is huge.
It is. Those rock-bottom charges over decades mean that fees aren't eating away at your returns. It's a massive, massive advantage.
And the tax structure is still a huge incentive, especially if you're salaried.
Absolutely. You still get your Section 80C deduction, plus that crucial extra 50,000 rupee deduction under Section 80C D1B.
That extra 50 grand is a tangible benefit that almost nothing else offers.
It is. And remember, the lump sum withdrawal, that part of your money, is still entirely tax exempt.
Okay, that's the good news. Now for the risks. When you introduce a 100% equity option, you're also introducing the potential for, for disaster if you mismanage it near retirement. That is the single biggest risk now. It has a name: sequence of returns risk.
Explain that.
The returns are completely market-linked. There's no guarantee.
Right.
If you're 100% in equity and a huge bear market hits, say a 30% drop, the year you plan to retire, you're in trouble. You can't just wait 5 years for it to recover.
Because if you start drawing down that capital when the market is low, you're locking in those losses forever.
You're locking them in. This volatility means you have to be so much more disciplined about de-risking your portfolio well before you plan to stop working.
So you have to use that extra time, that runway to age 85, to strategically and gradually shift from equity to safer debt options.
Precisely. You need your own dedicated asset allocation clock ticking down.
And we also have to hammer this home. Even with the new flexibility, this is not a savings account.
Absolutely not. TRI is an illiquid, long-term retirement vehicle. Even if you can pull out money 4 times, it is not your emergency fund. It's not for buying a car or renovating your kitchen. The lock-in is still very real.
And what about the complexity of it all? The new MSF, the different withdrawal rules, the SUR, SLW options. It feels like a lot for the average person to track.
It does. It increases the cognitive load, no question. For sophisticated investors, these are wonderful tools. But for less savvy subscribers, it can definitely be confusing. You now have to decide on your risk, the best time to convert, how to use the SUR, how to manage that 12 lakh threshold.
It's a lot of decisions. And let's not forget the annuity. Even at 20%, it's still there. It's the non-negotiable part of the deal.
It is. For most people, it's non-negotiable. And we have to be clear, annuity rates in India are modest, and the income you get from it is fully taxable at your slab rate. It's an unavoidable tax drag on a piece of your nest egg.
Finally, let's circle back to the government staff and that policy risk. The ground is literally shifting under their feet.
Yes. For central and state government employees, the uncertainty around that proposed UPS is a real factor.
And the UPS is appealing because it offers things like a minimum pension.
A defined benefit, exactly. Maybe a minimum of 10,000 rupees or 50% of your last basic pay. But it means their long-term security is subject to a completely different set of rules. The policy landscape for them is in flux, which makes planning very challenging.
Okay. We've broken down the mechanics, the risks, the benefits. Let's get to Section 4, investor assessment. What does this all actually mean for you? Let's run through a few profiles.
Let's do it. Let's start with the young private sector or self-employed person, 20s, 30s, high-risk appetite.
The ideal candidate for this new system, right?
Absolutely. For this group, NPS 2025 is now incredibly attractive. That 100% equity option combined with the tax benefits and low fees. It's arguably the most powerful tool for early-stage retirement saving out there.
It could even compete with things like ELSS or pure mutual funds.
I think it does, purely because of that cost advantage compounded over 30 or 40 years. It should be a core part of their portfolio.
Okay, profile 2, the mid-career worker, 40s, maybe early 50s, moderate risk tolerance, already has some EPF or PPF built up.
For them, NPS is a highly compelling second pillar, a sophisticated, diversified pillar. They should probably use the auto choice or a capped equity option, maybe 50 or 60% equity.
And they benefit most from the new exit rules.
Immensely. The enhanced exit rules, and especially the systematic withdrawal options, the SUR SLW, that lets them draw down their money methodically over several years, making it tax efficient and manageable.
And finally, the person who is near retirement or is just very conservative, capital preservation is their #1 goal.
Their math is different. They benefit right away from that higher 80% lump sum withdrawal and the phased withdrawal option.
But the high equity options are obviously not for them.
Not at all. And given the mandatory 20% annuity and its tax implications, this person might actually be better off shifting some funds closer to retirement into traditional guaranteed income products.
Like the Senior Citizen Savings Scheme.
Exactly, or the PMVVY. For them, NPS is now best used as a flexible distribution vehicle, not a growth engine.
This has been a massive deep dive, a huge policy shift in the Indian financial world. Just to quickly recap the biggest changes, you can now get 80% of your money as a lump sum, you have a 100% equity option for high growth, and you can stay invested until you're 85.
The core takeaway for you is this. The new NPS is no longer a rigid one-size-fits-all government structure. It's been redesigned to be a highly efficient, tax-advantaged retirement investment sleeve.
A sleeve. I like that.
It's now explicitly designed to let you leverage aggressive equity in your early and mid-career and then systematically de-risk and use all this new flexibility as you get close to retirement.
That's a powerful summary. And here's a final thought for you to chew on as you look at your own portfolio. Given this dramatic shift in NPS towards higher equity and more investment choices, how will this force traditional, more rigid retirement products like parts of the EPF to adapt? How will they have to liberalize their own rules to stay competitive in the next decade?
We're seeing the start of a real competition for your retirement rupee.
Indeed. It's a space you have to watch closely. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.